Hi everyone, and welcome back to Getting There, the podcast with me, Brogan. Today we have one of the most incredibly rare and remarkable guests I have ever met. Her name is Lurata Lyon. Lurata was just a small girl when war broke out in former Yugoslavia, and she could never imagine the horrors that lay ahead of her. She was kidnapped. She was then sold for sex to the highest bidder and was informed that her organs were going to be harvested. But throughout all of this and all of the physical and mental abuse, she has remained unbroken. Today we sit down and discuss the terrible tragedies that have happened in her life and how it is her life's mission to make this world a better place. Please listen. Thank you. Lurata, welcome to Getting There, the podcast.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me here.
I was just wondering, so this is Lurata's book, everyone. Can you explain how this young girl ended up in London?
Illegally. Sorry, I have to say that because I always say it on my speeches. I was an illegal immigrant. I was a child refugee in this country. In fact, not just a refugee, I was a political asylum seeker, meaning that there is a people might say, oh, what's the difference? Well, the difference is that when you seek a political asylum seeker, well, that's the government. They decided which sort of
box
path.
You fit in.
Yeah, exactly, because I was just a refugee in my mind. I was like just escaping war, but they said, no, she's a political asylum seeker. They put me on that category because it changes everything. You can't be sent back because they check the background, they see what's going on. And because it was war in my country, so they realized if I was to be dismissed as just an asylum seeker, it meant death. It meant going back and being executed. So they realized very quickly that I was a political asylum seeker. So I needed some kind of shelter and support to get on my feet, which kindly the government here have done for me. So I'm really grateful. So thank you for everyone that pays the taxes to support me. People like me.
Yeah. So you touched on it. So you grew up and in a war-torn environment. Can we talk about that and a little bit of like the story about what happened? Because you were in Serbia, sorry. Can you talk about the war scenario and what was going on there at the time that brought you here, really?
I think some generations, not all, especially the young generations now, they probably don't remember Yugoslavia at all. Even I don't remember it because by the time I was born, it started splitting up. And so it was all one country with many, many different sort of little little kind of like you have here, you have Wales and you have, I don't even know my geography right now. I've just gone, but, I'm trying to create a scenario. So we had different states, that's the word, different states in one country, Yugoslavia. And then the war was triggered initially with the north. Serbia was fighting, I think, Croatia and Bosnia. And then eventually it flared up in Kosovo. Serbia with Kosovo, that's what I'm trying to say. And so before we knew it, the whole country was at war with each other, not with other people, not other countries. We were fighting each other, and it's all for the sake of religion and different nationalities.
Land or
ethnic
anything
cleansing.
like that?
Well, this is it. It was always, excuse me, it was always to do with land. So if the Kosovans recognize themselves as Albanian-speaking Kosovans, whether they were Muslim, Catholic, it's so complicated. They claimed that Kosovo was their land. This is where they were, born and bred. And then they wanted their own independence, I think, that's what happened. And then Serbia refused to give them the independence. That's why the war in Kosovo and Serbia happened. But also when you look at Croatia and Bosnia, the war happened there because Serbia wanted to be in charge of every state. And so the states said, well, hang on a minute. We have our own government. We have our own little thing going on. Why should we answer to Serbia?
Yeah.
Just because it was the biggest state. And Belgrade was always the capital of Yugoslavia. So if not Ljubljana. Gosh, I need to check my history books. I'm getting a bit confused now with so much change has happened. But so the war really was caused just for religious purposes and to do with ethnic cleansing and claiming land, as you say. Nothing to do, I mean, yeah, Kosovo has got a lot of wealth. They have lots of mines and gold, etc. But
so when all this is happening, you're how old?
As far as I go back, I remember war in our country. Really? Like literally, because it went for decades with Croatia and Bosnia. And then by the time the Bosnia war was sort of calming down, I say calming down, it was the United Nations interfering. It flared up where we were. So we had war, we still do actually, as we speak. We still have niggles going on for, if I'm not mistaken, 2 decades almost.
But what did that look like day to day then? Or is this something you'd learnt to live with? Is it a case of like there were bombs or raids going on every day, or there were soldiers coming into your village every day, or is it just something that was going on in the background for you personally?
Initially, when the war was happening in the north, we had this sense of hatred instantly starting to build up amongst communities. I think that was one of the first things we noticed. The Muslims and the Orthodox Christians, they just started to hate each other, and the neighbors started distancing themselves if they were from a different ethnicity or religion. And for me, it really put me off because I come from a mixed kind of background, and also I don't really see any difference in color. Like racism never existed in our family, and religion was something that we embraced. Everybody that came with peace, so it was really tough. Then, as the time went on, that's when towards the end, to mid 90s. To end of the 1998, 97, 98, is when we really got affected. I got affected personally with my family and our town. It was bombing, it was killing, it was just war, just as we see today.
Do you remember the first time that you saw or felt that in your community, like because I mean, it's really easy for us, and it's like talking from my point of view, like when you disassociate and we can see things on the news and you become connected with it in that moment, and then it's almost like, oh, it's so far away that it almost, for me, it doesn't feel real. But do you remember the first time that you saw it firsthand come to your village?
I do remember it because it was literally one of those times where we got sort of taken not hostage as such, but we got taken into the crease of the mountains to be executed, the entire town. And so seeing people scared, the adults and children screaming and pregnant ladies, and like just seeing the whole, as you'd imagine, people leading a semi-normal life but still hesitant, not knowing what the future holds, to literally being dragged from your houses.
So you're in your house. You had no idea, obviously, that these people were on their way to come and cleanse your community as such.
Yeah.
And what happens? They just turn up in trucks, knock on doors? What?
Yeah, it was just army footsteps coming into but we had a knock on our door. We didn't know what was happening. So my dad opened the door and they just dragged us all out. We managed to put some shoes on and grab some. My mum and dad just grabbed some of the by the door. We have these hangers, so grabbed some jackets because it was cold. And we were just marched into the crease of the mountains, because where I lived, it was sort of surrounded with these beautiful mountains and fields, but the actual town, the village, was right on it sort of slides down the mountain. So at the crease of the mountain, there is a big opening, like a field in the middle of the mountain. So they dragged us towards their field so they can fit everybody in and do the biggest massacre that's ever done, because they did one in Bosnia, and that was horrific. To this day, I mean, people still talk about it.
I'm trying to comprehend what you're saying, because it feels like it's almost what we're witnessing kind of at the moment as well. Do you know what I mean? I think it's really hard to understand how humans can do that to other humans, and it's like. And I can only imagine the fear that you must have felt walking with your pet. I mean, how many of you were in the village at the time being walked in?
Oh, gosh, because it's a big village. I don't know how many we were then, but it is one of the biggest villages in Serbia. So this is how big we are talking. Thousands, hundreds and thousands of people marching towards that crease of the mountain, babies, elderly, massive.
What were your parents saying to you on the walk?
We couldn't really talk much. My dad just wanted to find my uncle, and because his house was a bit further up. My mum and dad's house was always sort of in the field and overlooking this beautiful scenery of green and farmers working their fields. So beautiful. And then, walking down up the hill, my dad trying to locate my father, trying to locate my uncle. And eventually we located him, but we were just whispering because it was really daunting what was happening. We all knew something quite big is about to happen.
But did you think you were going to die?
We pretty much sussed it out that was going to be, it's like a death kind of, the echo that evening. I don't know how to explain the chills, the
energy.
The energy shifted that evening. It was really quite, we were being marched to our death.
And how far were you walking along then?
So in terms of kilometers or miles, it's not very far, but because it was so many people, we were shuffling for quite a good while to get to the crease.
And I imagine people like dragging their feet, knowing the inevitable once we get here.
Yeah, exactly, like elderly and stuff, and pregnant, as I said, pregnant women, children screaming, babies. It was really horrific. It was a chilling night that to this day I get haunted really in my sleep, because it's funny, you can't delete certain things as much as you try.
No. So you get to the crease of the mountain.
Yeah.
And what happened?
When we reached this crease of the mountain, we were surprised to see how many other people had reached there already, because I think they might have started from the top and they were just dragging people from the bottom up. So it was, it's really hard to explain. I don't know how to explain. It's like this heavy energy, but like people whispering amongst each other. But when you whisper in such crowd, it creates an echo of humming kind of. Yeah. And so when we reached there, it was quite overwhelming that we realized it's the whole entire town. And we were almost the last, because we lived, especially my dad and us, we lived in the fields, near the fields. So when we got there and my uncle was with us, we were literally not far from where the army was behind us. And so actually fair play for my uncle. He said to my dad, he said, "Oh, you take care of everyone. I'm going to go and negotiate with them."
Going to go and negotiate with the
army. I know. My uncle, bless his. If you were to imagine my uncle, I've said it in the book actually. He was like John Wayne. Literally, look, the way he spoke, the way he walked. He was just missing a hat and cowboy boots. Literally, just to bring some light to the story, because I know it's a quite heavy subject, but
I think it is important because of what's happening now as well, more than ever. But we can get into that later.
Yeah, absolutely. What's happening now? I mean, it would be nice to just reflect on that, because it's been playing up on my mind a lot, and I've been doing these little videos on my Instagram because I just feel quite strongly about injustice, and I never take sides. I don't like politics, but politics ruined my life basically until I made it here and sort of. But yeah, going back to that night, my uncle negotiated, and he was a very wealthy man. So he literally said to the army that if you continue to do what you're about to do, you're going to be hunted down. The UN will find you. They will prosecute you all. Why risk your lives? Why are you doing this? I have so much wealth. I can give you more than the government or whoever is paying you to do this. And I just remember the soldiers, because we could see him, like almost they thought he was bluffing. It's like, "Oh, old man, go away," kind of thing. He's like, "I'm not joking. You want to see my wealth?" And on those days, I don't know if anyone listening to this can relate to this, but my uncle had gold in his garden. He had dug everything up. It was all in his garden. He had so much wealth. I never knew.
From what?
Because he was a farmer.
Okay.
Yes. Honestly, his story, I need to write a book just about him, but so much wealth. He dealt with cows and all sorts of.
Did you know he was that wealthy?
I knew he was wealthy because we just always knew, everybody knew in town who was the wealthiest. It's never the doctors, it's never the professors of this world. It was just the guys that went out there and worked hard. Sorry, no offense, but yeah.
And when he turned around and said, "Why are you doing this?" did they respond?
To my uncle?
Yeah, the army.
The army, yeah, they were like, "Oh, we're going to make the biggest massacre that's ever been." They point blank, they just said it. We just want to make a point to NATO that they can't interfere in our land. So here we are, going to make the biggest massacre. And my uncle's plan worked because I wouldn't be here telling the story today. And actually, I'm really proud of him. And I think I always thought I wish I could write a book about my uncle. But to be honest, I think the fact that I'm mentioning him when I'm talking, I think that in itself does him, justice, because he's no longer with us, but he saved the entire town, and he's really considered a hero.
So he gave them all of his gold, or
he literally paid the army to spare the town.
And they took it.
They took it
because in most situations you'd think these kind of people would take the money and then kill you anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Because so what happened that night? I mean, people can find out in the book, but they said, "Okay, old man, let's go see how much money you've got." So soldiers left. Loads of soldiers were left with us, but a few soldiers left to go and see at my
to
uncle's
guard
house.
you in
so to keep guard of everyone. And then my mum decided to go with my uncle, and I'm like, "Mom, like what?" She's like, "No, I'll go help him." My mum she's always been like that. She always she always wanted to make a difference in the world, and she went with my uncle. And then what happened was it went quite a long time. So what happened on this moment, we were all peace and quiet and whispering to each other, softly, like, "What do you think is happening? Are they still alive?" My dad said, "Oh, they must have killed them," because they had gone for a long time. We didn't know that they were digging. So there was a lot of digging happening in his garden. And even after they got a call, the army got a call on their walkie-talkie thing. They got some kind of message, and then they retrieved themselves. They said, "You stay here, otherwise we will shoot you. Do not move." And then do not move till when? We didn't get any instructions, but nobody was there to move. So we just stayed there. Hours went by, and it was cold and dark, at nighttime. And after a while, we just thought, okay, well, nothing is happening. I'm sure that we thought there is snipers in the
you would, your imagination. Yeah, of course.
But my dad said, "Okay, we're going to have to make a move and see what happens." And then we decided slowly, sheepishly, just walking.
But the whole village just started taking.
We at the front, because we were at the back.
Now you're at the front.
So now we're at the front. So we started, my dad and I, and then my auntie and her son, and so we started walking towards my uncle's house, really, to see whether they've killed my mum and my uncle. But no, to be honest, I really don't understand. Sometimes I think, what kind of energy got involved that we got saved, because it just, you'd think
by the grace of God.
What they were capable of doing, they could have taken the money and really kill everyone, or kill my kill my mum and my uncle. But I don't know. I'm just grateful they weren't killed.
Did you know the conversation that the army had with your uncle once they took the money? Did they just run, or did they?
I don't think there was much exchanging conversation as such, because my uncle was a very private man anyway. He really didn't. He wasn't very talkative. Both my uncle and my dad are very. When they talk, you have to have a lot of patience to wait for them to answer or make conversations very slow. And so we got back, and I just remember because as a child you didn't ask questions, and I was still really young, but he was speaking to my dad, and we were really grateful to see them in the garden. They were just sitting there having cigarettes, thinking that they've killed us. We were thinking they've got killed. They were thinking we got killed. So when we got there into their garden, I was just shocked with the amount of digging that had happened in his garden. And they were just sitting there having a ciggy. And he said to my dad, "Our brother." my dad's like, fair play, you did negotiate. We were all in shock. We didn't even know how to handle the emotions.
Yeah, like, what do you even say?
Yeah, it wasn't really anything logical that we were doing after that. We were just the hype of stress that you get just before you get killed, that you are dying. The stress levels go through the roof. I mean,
I can't imagine how you come back down from that.
It's really hard. It's almost like you get really depressed after that, because there's something, honestly, I can't explain it.
Even chemically, it's that level of adrenaline, isn't it? It's like, even when I was...
You just know you are making peace with everything. Everything, they say, oh, your life flashes between your eyes. I think it's quite right. It does flashes, even if you're not actually on that face of passing away, because
But you were.
But you
were that same process, just seconds away from.
Yeah, that's more psychological. But physically, they say when you're about to pass away, the last stage, the hearing goes last, and then you go through, your life flashes before your eyes. Actually, if somebody told you and they had a gun to your head or anything, and they said, "Oh, you're about to die tonight," your life starts flashing before your eyes, because it's the adrenaline. You're not ready to go. It's funny, as hard as life is, you are never ready to go. It's so weird. You're never ready to die. And, you think death is not painful or anything, but you just, even if you're very poor and you're struggling, you're never ready to die.
We're made to be resilient, aren't we?
Honestly, we are never ready. We are never ready to pass away.
It's like the conversation I feel that we're having is like, it almost like echoes parts of the Holocaust, when they were marched to the chambers. That's the level of heaviness that I feel when hearing you say your story. And so you go back to your uncle's, and then do you stay in your houses, or you move on? Or
we all go to our respected houses, but we just spend a bit of time there with my uncle, just like looking at this kind of mess in the garden. And he said to my dad, my dad said, "Oh my God, you've lost everything." I don't know why my dad made that comment, because we could have lost more. We could have lost the whole village. But my uncle was so cheeky. He just looked at us like, "Brother, do you think I'm that stupid?" And my dad's like, "What?" And he had something hidden even more. He had another bag in the garden. It's like, yeah, he is so funny. He's honestly, if you made a film about him, it would be just hilarious. He had good sense of humor. He was very tough man.
So how old are you this day?
Now?
No, then. No.
Oh.
Then.
Well, now. At that point, I was 17.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you then fear and you want to get out of the village, or you guys just remain united and stay put?
So we stay put initially within the next couple of days. And a lot happened on those next couple of days. It was some devastating stuff. My uncle passed away, and
in those days, from
a heart attack. The same uncle that saved the town. It was really devastating. We couldn't believe. Maybe some people were meant to die that night, and you can't cheat death, I guess. People that were meant to live lived, and others that were not meant to live. Yeah, my uncle passed away. A few days after that, a couple of days or so. It was really shocking to everyone. My cousin was only little. He left a very young boy. And
you almost feel like he was this invincible hero, don't you?
Absolutely.
From what you're saying, and then you're like,
he's
and all
gone.
of a sudden
it was really hard for everyone to digest that. But to be honest, the grieving wasn't really almost allowed, because we were so on high alert about the threat. The army getting back into town, raping women. And what you have to remember is that during the war, we had two sets of armies under the same kind of umbrella or regime. But what they did during the war, to make the numbers up, they they just got the prisoners out of prisons, put them in uniform, and they said, right, you're going to cover up a bit. Just because they didn't look like army, but you're wearing trainers. So at least the commanders and stuff, they knew the difference, who was the real army and who was just recruits. We learned that quite quickly, because you never see an army wearing normal shoes and trainers. No. It doesn't make any sense, because you have proper boots on.
Yeah, protective boots.
Yeah, protective boots. But the guys that were really tormenting the town were the ones with trainers.
Because they were desensitized to everything.
Absolutely lethal. Villains. And so my dad came home one day and he said, oh my God, they're now raping and doing all sorts. He said, I can't watch this happening to you. I want you to escape. I'm like, Dad, where are we going to go? Because the borders were all shut.
So what was it not a case of that you could just move?
No, because so the borders with any country in Europe were shut. So they were all, nobody was letting anyone out and nobody was letting anyone in. So if you were to go, let's just say for where we lived, if I wanted to say, okay, let's just escape, let's go to Switzerland because it's very near, or Austria, or even Hungary and Budapest, all these different countries, Romania, you still have to go through all these barricades, all this army, it was like in war zone, you really can't travel there freely. You get stopped and executed on the spot. So you have to stay put. Yeah, you have to stay put. You stay in your houses, and we didn't have bunkers, and you don't have anything where you can hide. Yes, we had a sort of underground little room, basement, but I wouldn't say it was bomb-proof. And so you couldn't. But the only thing that I could do, that my dad asked of me to do, was to cross the mountain. And I say border. There is no such thing as like border then with Kosovo and Serbia. But what had happened is United Nations had come to Kosovo, and we were like right on the cusp. And United Nations were patrolling the main road, so there is no war, no tanks coming in from Serbia into Kosovo anymore. And so they had the troops on the ground, meaning Americans, British, all United Nations, and they wore blue helmets, and
so it sounds like the safety of places.
Yeah. And then Serbia on the other side, where the main road that leads to Kosovo, also had their army on the other side. So it was created, it wasn't a border, and then they created a border, if you see what I mean, just trying to draw boundaries. So I couldn't go through the main road. Even if you wanted, you can't, because there was no cars circulating, no buses circulating from Serbia into Kosovo. It's all like a ghost town. Everywhere you looked, it's like nobody was even talking or doing anything or mixing or going.
And your dad wanted you to make the journey on your own?
Yeah, he said, you have to cross through the mountains. I'm like, Dad, through the mountains? I mean, you need something to focus, compass or something, like to see where you're going. He's like, no, because I can tell you roughly, and then you'll see, you'll find your way. I don't know.
Did he take much convincing?
Well, I didn't want to speak back to my dad, and I didn't want to be disrespectful. I was the only child and always respected his word. And I know he meant well. He wanted safety for me.
Were there other people fleeing to get across the mountain?
Not on that moment I did it. I did it on my own. So I didn't see anyone else. It was just me. I got given this little bag and off you go. I was like, oh my God.
Jesus.
Yeah, but you see, that time I was really frightened, and I was scared that I might not see my parents. But I don't know, part of me wasn't nearly as scared. I wasn't really sort of, how can I say, after what happens to me after this moment, I think I was still very innocent.
Naive.
So I wasn't really naive. I was very naive and innocent. So I didn't really think ahead how much danger, I was yet to pass, or what lies ahead, or what could happen. I wasn't analyzing. I was just like, okay, you're telling me to do this, I'm going to do it. But his words were like, okay, you go to Kosovo and you search for the Red Cross. Red Cross, charity that was sent to help with people that were at war in Kosovo. And I'm like, okay, Red Cross, okay, let's see what this is. It was a camp that was created for people.
So you take this bag, and how long does it take you to get across the mountains?
Oh my God, good few hours, because by car it takes about half an hour, maybe.
Okay, so you managed to do it before, like you weren't travelling in the dark, or?
No. I made it through the day, because my dad asked me to do that early in the day. He's like, you got to, because he knew I would maybe get lost. I mean, I think he was risking everything as well. He didn't.
So lesser of two evils, I guess. Yeah,
I don't think he knew I would make it to the other side. I don't know what he thought, really. I try not to think too much of what was going through their head, I just.
So you got there.
Second guess. yeah, I got to the other side, got on this bus. Because I speak both languages. I speak Serbian fluently, and then I speak Albanian fluently, because we learn it at school and also with the neighbors, and it was all one country. So, and yeah, I got to the other side. I didn't really speak much to anyone. Just I was speaking to the driver. I said, I need to get to the capital where the Red Cross is. I just wanted to get to the Red Cross. So yeah, we got there. It's like, yeah, you take this bus, that bus. So I had to change. And I managed to get to the capital.
Yeah.
Eventually, it took a while, an hour and a half on the buses. Got there eventually. But I saw, what I first noticed was a lot of United Nations army on the ground.
So did you feel
Lots
safer?
of NATO. I felt safe. Instantly, you realize that it felt like things were in control, or at least you knew that it's not going to be like a bomb
Imminent
flying.
death,
Yeah. But it didn't feel as normal. It just felt so like heavy, like loads of army, on the ground, loads of troops. And loads of different cars, vehicles. They had orange vehicles because they had different companies that they were working.
And there's no way to even ring your parents and tell them that you made it, is there?
No, there was no way to communicate. So it was just done sort of in hope. And gosh, we've come so far now with the mobile phones and stuff.
Can you imagine?
There was no internet. There was nothing like that.
I'm just trying to imagine what you were going through, and I imagine like dirt tracks and all the UN stuff like what you see in the films, I guess.
Yeah.
So what happens then once you find the Red Cross people?
I never found the Red Cross
you
people.
Never found them?
No, I never found the Red Cross people. I'm not going to go too much into the story because the story is really complex. So it's best if people just took their time to read it. But I'm just going to give an overview of what happens next. I got found in the streets by 2 American police officers, UN peacekeepers. And they were like... what are you doing in the streets, with a translator, because I couldn't speak any English. And I was like, oh gosh, I'm looking for the Red Cross. And they're like, well, you can't be here. It's nighttime. It's police hours. Civilians were not allowed to just be walking down the road. And I said, well, if you find the Red Cross for me, if you take me there, then I'll be okay. After a bit of debating amongst each other, it was 2 of them and the translator. The translator turned around to me in Albanian and he said, they can't take you to the Red Cross. They won't take you to the Red Cross, but you can stay with them tonight. They have room, so you're not on the streets, because if anyone else finds you, we don't know what's going to happen. I was like, okay, what's going to happen? I thought it was a safe country, a safe place.
So can you provide us an overview of what happened then?
So the overview of the story really is that because I don't want to spoil it for people that like reading books and stuff, but I stayed with the Americans. They gave me huge help and shelter, and they became my best friends. To this day, we're still in touch, and it's just such a privilege to have them in my life. I'm forever grateful for what they did for me. And soon after, within like a short period of time that I was with them, there was no electricity at times because it's still just after the bombing in Kosovo and stuff. So it was really tough times. I did all the chores around the house. By that point, they decided they're going to keep me there until it's safe for me to return back home, because they said, we don't want to send you to the Red Cross. I only learned why now, within the last few years, why they didn't send me back. Well, they didn't send me to the Red Cross. So going back to that one day that changed everything, whether for worse or for good, I really don't know how to explain it, but I learned a lot because of one mistake I made. I say one mistake, I wasn't to know. I did the chores around the house, around the apartment, and I thought, there is no electricity, it's daytime, I want to read, I want to do something, because I was going a bit stir crazy in an apartment by myself. They were working. I said, if I just walk to this stand and just buy a little magazine in Albanian, I can just flick through and read newspaper, whatever. And that was such a good idea in my head. But I left the door open and everything because I wasn't going anywhere. I was just going quickly and coming back into the apartment. And I went outside, and literally within seconds, I had this big van pull in front of me. they had this like a bag. They grabbed me and then there was this bag over my head. It was too quick for me to even make sense what was happening. And I got dragged into this van. I just remember the big black van and the guys talking in Albanian saying, we've got her, we've got her. And I'm thinking, this is such a nightmare I'm having. I need to wake up because it just didn't seem real. It was so surreal.
And unexpected.
Unexpected. I wasn't in Serbia now. I was in Kosovo. What on earth is happening? I thought I was reasonably safe. I thought. And I got dragged all the way, in the car initially on that van. Then once the van got stopped, I got dragged from the van all the way in. I still didn't know where I was because it wasn't a long drive. It was literally 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And on my knees, and I'm being held, and they take this hoodie off me, whatever it was. And I opened my eyes. I was in this building. I mean, it had a desk, and I mean, it looked like an office, but not. And they said, oh, look, we've got her. We got the spy. And I'm like, spy? I mean, it just wasn't
adding up.
Yeah, no. It's like, what? And the guy said, okay. He said, we got her. That's good. This is the boss. He said, rape her now. I want to watch. I just remember these words. I didn't even have a chance to explain myself. They didn't ask me anything. I was just flipped on my back. And everything I had on was ripped off so quickly. I was just screaming.
Savages.
So loud. Yeah, they were holding me down. All I could do is scream. And I was pinned down, so I couldn't really do much. And I just remember, and I've said this in the book, I screamed. I said, I'm a virgin, please don't do this. And they were like, what? Oh, hold on. So the boss stopped the act and he said that we've stumbled across a huge cargo. For me, cargo meant, doing like we do cargo, we ship things from one country to another. Yeah, like a business. But what cargo as a human? It just didn't make any sense. So I was a human cargo. And what I didn't realize that I have stumbled across some really nasty gang for human trafficking and sex trafficking, organ harvesting gang that they found great pleasure of tormenting people and selling them. But they had to train me, so they groomed me first, and I had to watch a lot of disgusting scenes and abuse, other girls being abused.
Did you meet other girls in there?
I was kept only with the madam that they had with them, this particular woman. I say lady, I'm too polite sometimes. Yeah. This woman they had with them the whole time. I was with her and her alone, but never with other girls. Other girls were brought in, raped, abused.
In front of you?
Yes, and I was made to watch. And then they got taken away. So most of them were not even conscious. They were just so out of it. So I don't...
Were they like on drugs, do you think? Or like they were drugging them? Or?
I really don't know. But it was very sick to see. I mean, beaten up, bleeding, raped. I mean...
And they were taken, do you think they were discarded then?
Yeah, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So, sorry.
But it's like, I know when we met off camera as well, and we were talking about, this was before the latest war that we had in like Palestine and Israel, but it's like the war isn't just the men of the dead bodies that you see. It also becomes like a cesspit for people like this and for like children. I was hearing as well, like smuggled out of Ukraine because they've got no papers, and it's all this that happens beside the scenes. It's not even the case of people losing their husbands at war. It's like just all these barbaric acts that I think, there's part of me that feels like, oh, this would have happened I don't know what, in the years ago, but like the fact that it's in your lifetime and the fact that it's probably happening this week, I just find it really hard to comprehend.
It's literally happening all the time. This is the worrying thing that I have, and I've been a huge kind of spokesman for human trafficking. I'm trying to bring awareness. It's literally one of the biggest businesses
it's more than drugs,
in the world.
Isn't it, at the moment?
It's more than drugs. 150 million people 150 million people get trafficked every year. And people asking me questions, well, where are they going? What are they doing? I mean, it's quite sick. I don't even know where to begin to tell you what the stories I'm hearing, the agents that I'm working with, the things they are telling me. I feel like I've gotten off quite lightly, and I just feel guilty to even be alive, because why can't we save these other people? You know, you feel the guilt once you make it through something like that. You just feel like, why me and why not other people? So
it's almost like, in one sense, you feel like as a humanity, like everyone's like a little bit more conscious now, like they've got more spiritual awareness, emotional intelligence, and then it's like all these barbaric acts are happening. Like I had someone on here who that was a sex worker from 18, and you know, he was groomed and raped and and really successful people in Hollywood that were like 72 years old that are like professionals and walking the street, and it's like the whole life cycle and the chain starts and begins everywhere. It's not just in these remote places, it's like places all around the world are feeding this human trafficking stuff, and everyone's got a part to play in it.
It really does. I mean, it goes so deep and so dark. It goes into, we hear it and we think it's just a joke. It's not a made up story. I mean, they are taking the children, they're abusing the children. It's not just sex. I mean, I work with agents where they tell me that the kids get raped over the weekend. For example, just a weekend, 25 times by 25 different people. Or one person buys them and keeps them whole weekend abusing them. They don't just, this is not, people think, well, what do you mean sex? It's rape, it's abuse. They get beaten up. They get psychologically abused. They are frightened. They want them to be frightened. They want to see the fear on their face. It's quite sick.
Yeah, the act's one thing, and it's everything else that goes with it.
Everything else that go with it. And then you've got the why so many kids are missing, because now it's become this thing which maybe has been going on for a lot longer than we have been aware of it. But they abuse the children, they drain the blood, and they drink the blood. So maybe, after all, vampires are real. Maybe we thought it was just science.
Child sacrifice they've been talking about.
Sacrificing children. They take in their organs, the vital organs, and they sell it into the black market.
So when you were taken at that point, did they say that they were gonna sell you? Did they tell you what their plans were to do with you? Or
yeah, so because I spoke the language and I wasn't quiet. I was always questioning, why are you doing this to me? Please let me go. In Albanian, let me go. I have mum and dad. I'm the only child. I was communicating. I was so scared. I was seeing things happening, and all I could do, I'm actually by nature just I love to communicate. And so I guess even when I was scared, it wasn't stopping me. In fact, it made me more verbal.
It's probably what saved you.
Maybe it's what saved me. But people, I've had people say, question, well, why would they even tell you? Trust me, they want you to be scared. They thrive. Them telling you
as well.
Yeah, I just remember there's smirks on their faces, and her boss, she's asking what's going to happen to her. Shall we tell her? Come on, let's tell her. They find it's like a joke to them. To them it's a big game. It's a huge game. And because I was a virgin, I was from a different country, to them, I was precious. They sold me to the highest bidder. So the boss constantly was with me. Very rarely did he leave my sight. Under the same roof where I stayed, where they kept me, he was always there, sleeping with this woman. Next, 3 of us in bed at times. Disgusting. And so I would just be there, but, they were the ones next to me. So they would tell me, and at one point they've had enough of me asking these questions. They turn around and they're like, let me tell you what's going to happen. And I just remember I was so scared. They said, we've sold it to the highest bidder. Yep. And everything you've learned, you're going to do, you're going to make us proud. They'll bring you back to us. Then we'll give you to the rest of the market. And I just remember it was on those days we didn't have internet to search this kind of stuff. Like now you'd think somebody has smoked something and they got a wild imagination. This is based on true facts, but because when they got arrested, and because they did get arrested after my interview, when they already knew who they were, but when they dig deeper, it's exactly as I gave my interview, what they've said to me, where they were taking me. They told me everything because they knew I would never escape. So I knew everyone's faces. I knew all the names. They didn't hide anything from me. And I think this is maybe they learned a lesson as well because I escaped.
Yeah.
And so...
Were there points that you just wanted to give up?
There was, initially when I was with them, I didn't want to give up because I really wanted to make it through to my mum and dad. There was this obligation that I felt deep in my heart. I said, if I could just make it through, even if I die in Serbia, I didn't care. Death wasn't that what was scaring me. It was the exact thought, okay, I'm about to disappear for good. And, well, for bad, but disappear for good in that sense that I wasn't coming back for my parents again. What are they going to be thinking? Their only child gone, completely gone. I was putting myself in their shoe. I was caring more about how they would feel if they made it through war, what they would feel like, not knowing where I've gone, the unknown. So I literally, what kept me going and made scenes every time we stopped at restaurants or places, because we were in the car a lot with these people. I was with them. They would stop, and every time they stopped, obviously, as normal, you have the need to go to the toilet. They didn't want you to wee yourself and make a scene. So I would make a scene going to the toilets. Every time we stopped somewhere, I'd go straight towards the bar, and then I'd get dragged the other side. And the bar staff realized that something wasn't right with me and that I was in distress. But just causing a scene all the way through. And I get beaten up and stuff, but I didn't care. I was desperate to escape.
Did any of the bar staff pick up on what was going on then, do you think?
I think they really did pick up on my unusual behavior. That I was... Look, if there is a young girl coming towards the bar and there is a big guy goes behind and drags her by the hair, grabs her by the arm and the hair and shoves her into the toilet and stays by the door, the staff... they saw something wasn't right. I mean, it's so obviously done, but because it was still sort of war and these people were so well known, so sort of feared.
Did you ever just feel like, I'm just going to try and run?
I wouldn't have gotten far. I mean, I didn't know where I was or where we were. I mean, it's not like you run and you go into the building in London. It was, roads and fields, and they would... I didn't think I could do that.
No.
Yeah. But the one time I did do it, I managed to escape. So, and I gave an interview at the police station, and the rest then just, it's funny, we say, I say to people, I say, listen, think positive and don't let this thing bother you, because once you start dwelling on the negative, it will create a chain of events of negativity. It's exactly what was happening with me. So war happened. It was a lot of negative. Went to Kosovo. I got kidnapped. Speaking of chain of events, it was out of my control, but it was like one thing after another. It was just incredible. And
but you were kidnapped twice.
Yeah, so the first time that was a real kidnapping. So the Americans didn't know where I've gone. They came back. They searched for me. They didn't know where I was. They thought I just ran away and gone to the Red Cross. And then when I initially showed up at the doorstep, because after my interview with the police station, I got given a case number and everything. And then they said, who do you know in Kosovo? Because we can't keep you at the station. I gave them their names, and they took me to their apartment. And they were asleep, but they were asleep, woken up by UN. And then they took me in and stayed with me all night. We couldn't communicate. I couldn't speak in English, but the UN, the guys that brought me there, they explained it that she was kidnapped and told them who, why, this, that. And that's it. And the next day, Peter and Brian said, Lurata, you really can't stay here anymore. It's so dangerous for us, for you. They're going to be... because the guys that I escaped, they didn't get arrested on the spot, you see. So they were at large. and I gave my interview. So then the whole UN was after them. They had proper evidence now to make an arrest. And so I wasn't safe because they would have eliminated me if I stayed. And they put the American soldiers in
at risk
danger
as well, yeah.
And they took me into this bus, and I went sort of as near to the border. I say border, it wasn't really a real border, but as near to the mountain to my parents as I could get. Same as when I went there. And then I crossed the mountain again, and I reached to my parents' home eventually. And to be honest, I was just ready to step into a bomb or something on the road. I just didn't care anymore. I was so relieved of having finished with this kidnapping. Couldn't wait to tell my mum and dad, to say, look, oh my God, don't ever send me away, because that was horrific. Like, it's not safe. There is not safe anywhere. It woken me up. I grew up overnight with these people. I saw the terror. I really understood human trafficking. I didn't even think it was such thing. I thought you see it in movies, kidnapping and stuff, to hold for ransom, but I never knew child trafficking existed for sex trafficking. None of that existed in my little head.
You've just been open to a world of just.
It was just like nasty. Something open up, yeah. But yeah, long story short, made it to my parents, and then I got arrested by the Serbian army that was formed during the war. They arrested me for crossing the borders because during the war you were not meant to cross, and I did it illegally. I went there, so they assumed I was spying as well, I think, in some way. They took me from my mum and dad's garden, and I said to my mum and dad, look, don't cry, Mum, it's fine. I'm just going to explain it to the soldiers, and then, I would be brought. I thought I was getting back quite soon, I thought maybe it's just a normal, because they
process where they think you spied,
Yeah, I was just so naive, still naive. I had so much to learn. I guess that was my learning process. I just needed so much to learn. And yeah, they interrogated me. They did all sorts of nasty things as well, beated me up and branded me while they were interrogating me. I had so many scars. I mean, my nose broken, and my ear is still
and was it all men?
Yeah, it was soldiers, all men. And then...
do you think they did think you were a spy, or they were just getting pleasure from hurting
Well,
you?
actually, when they were interrogating me, I wasn't convincing them, and they kept persisting, like, no, you're lying, tell us. And I'm thinking, I was bleeding at that point. I'd lost teeth from being punched. My nose was sideways. My eyes were swollen. I was bleeding. I couldn't even talk. I was slurring my words, and they still didn't believe me and I was crying. I was in so much pain, losing teeth. I still have missing teeth anyway, but... yeah, I mean, when I kept repeating the story of what had happened in Kosovo, they still didn't believe me. They branded me with a metal, kind of hashtag shape metal on my calf.
What, they used to like cows and things?
Yeah, like they do cows, just to make me talk. But there is nothing that could have made me talk anymore. I told the truth. It's not, I couldn't. What am I supposed to say?
Yeah.
I don't know what they wanted me to say. I was just telling the truth. And then just passed out. And then next time I woke up, I was in this really small, dark room. And initially I thought, okay, they're going to let me out. I couldn't even see because my eyes were swollen, but it was really dark. And I just remember being in pain, so much pain everywhere. And within the next hour or so, I realized that I wasn't going anywhere because that torment really started, and they started raping me yeah, then this is when I lost hope.
Did you find that you almost disassociated from your body because you'd been through like so much pain and emotional trauma and physical trauma that you almost step outside of yourself sometimes? Yeah,
initially I didn't. Initially I was taking it, as it came. I didn't know what I was doing, but when he got really... The body has a defense mechanism that it does it by itself. I think now we know it as meditation or detachment, etc. but it really does have a sense of
Coping
cope
mechanism.
so defense mechanism, coping mechanism, that it got to the point after weeks on end of being raped, abused, and then I gave in. I wasn't eating. I was starving myself because I wanted to die. I didn't want to handle it anymore, so I went through a real process of
Ready to go.
Yeah, I was ready to go. I was starving myself. It didn't work. I don't know why it didn't work. I was still ticking. And then when I realized that it was not my time to go, but to go meaning to die, but I wasn't even going anywhere either, I thought, what do? I just started feeling sorry for them instead of feeling sorry for myself. So
how did that shift come about?
I don't know. There was first I remember just lying there while I was being abused and just thinking of my mum's cooking and stuff, and then thinking of my beautiful childhood, and then all of a sudden something triggered in me. I thought, these people, they're doing this to me, these soldiers, they also must have been children. Well, they were children at one point. And I then started looking at it. It almost became like a mission for me to see them like they the ones that they are hurt. And
what's happened to you for you to think this is okay?
I was literally, what was happening to me, it was conditioning me to think, to feel sorry for them, not me. I went from feeling sorry for me to literally turning it on them and thinking, what happened to these children? They are adults now.
They think this is okay to do this to this younger.
What must have happened to them? At what point in their lifetime something triggered them to think that this raping someone daily?
Do you think that was a side effect of them watching this war go on for 2 decades? Because you almost desensitise, don't you, to like emotions, women having less value. Like, on reflection, do you think that generation had become so desensitised from the war they had witnessed that?
I don't know, there was definitely a lot of hate in them, but whether they were bullied at school, whether they had really tough parents as they were growing up, maybe they weren't heard, maybe they were beaten up in the olden days, same as in the UK, they used to beat children up. So I don't know what happened to them, but maybe even the war, as you said, with many generations to come, maybe they got their family killed at one point. I don't know. I'm just trying to justify. You can't justify what they did is wrong. But
how anyone in their right mind thinks raping a woman who's moments away from death, and you couldn't have looked attractive. Do you know what I mean? Like you say, you were missing your teeth. You got
God.
Like it's like anyone that would want to sleep to molest a woman that's close to death and looks so awful. It's, you can't comprehend, like, how is that even turning you on?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a big psychological kind of thing to analyze, isn't it? Because I was just a body. I wasn't there.
Yeah, and I think it is one thing when you see these images of glamorous women and they've picked someone off the street and women, but it's like, dude, like, someone's dying. Like, where's your grace in that? Like, they must be so, whatever configuration these people have got, it's just like so far removed from what's reality.
Yeah, I think that was one way of them. I think they saw it as abuse, I guess, as a
Do you think they
power.
Did think you were a spy or not?
I think they realized I wasn't a spy, but then I was just a body that they could have fun with. I was just there. The psychological games they played with me, it was horrific. I mean, it wasn't just like rape all the time. It was things like, because I where I was being held, it was a small room. That was my bathroom initially. That was my sleeping quarters. It was like really small. And I had a blanket and just the same clothes that I was wearing. So I began to have infections and I was stinky. I was doing my wee there. Anything I had in me, I was doing it all there. So my period, everything initially that was coming.
That's enough to make people sick anyway. Yeah.
It was really bad. And so they decided to wash me. So it's really quite disgusting, where they used to take me to the showers and spray me with really quite harsh water pressure.
So almost like the
washed
fire
me with that.
hoses.
Yes. So with that, and then one of them had this obsession with brushing my hair. Trust me, I've got loads of makeup on, and even when I don't, I'm not saying I'm the most like amazing, beautiful creature on earth. I'm just happy to be alive, you know. It's
Jesus,
not, but I do put makeup because I'm quite girly, and obviously I have my
and you take
my
pride
things
in
that
yourself.
I hide, and
Yeah.
you know, I've got a broken nose, which is fixed and stuff. So I try to make myself as normal as I can in and day out. But when they were keeping me there, I was a real mess. So I was probably, you wouldn't imagine that somebody would want anyone like that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's so far removed from.
I look like a monster. You know, monster meaning, I don't know. I mean, I was deformed. I was so deformed. Like, I mean, I couldn't see because my eyes were still swollen. I had like my jaw had been dislocated, so I was sideways. And so,
did they give you any medical help or not?
No, not at all. They washed me. They brushed my hair. Then they gave me some stuff to wear, just some t-shirts and some of their stuff. And back in the room again. And then they would put mice and rats in my room. And to this day, I've been working so hard to work on my fear of rats and mice, because I don't fear them. I know they're not going to do anything, but it takes me back to that room. So when I see one, I'm like, ah. And so I'm working on
It's a trigger, yeah.
It's a trigger.
Funny enough, somebody else I had in here, he that one of the houses they lived in was so badly looked after that he would wake up by like mice at their feet. Because I think as well, it's like what they symbolise. It's like the vermin. It's like, it's not even, do you know what I mean? And it's like the dirt and the vermin. And it's just, I mean, I think it's just remarkable that you're here. And I think with everything that's going on, it's so prevalent, the work that you are doing.
Yeah.
Because like I say, until you meet people like you or we hear more stories like you, it's really hard for us to cut off. And I wanted to touch on something about the Red Cross, because so in the work that I was doing when I was helping out with this human trafficking charity as well, and they were saying as well, a lot of the time these kind of unions like Red Cross, UN, actually become a breeding ground because there are displaced, vulnerable people in these camps, and more often than not there can be people of power who are actually connected into the underworld. So children are getting smuggled in and out. You later came to learn what was actually going on at the Red Cross. What did you come to learn?
I asked, I said, guys, why didn't you send me to the Red Cross? And they said, because we knew of human trafficking happening. I mean, these guys have served in Afghanistan. They've served, it wasn't their first rodeo that they just came to. So they said, we soon learned that it was very corrupt. The regime in Kosovo was very corrupt. The ex-soldiers, etc. So the people running the Red Cross, it wasn't the actual charity itself. It was the people on the ground that weren't to be trusted.
Yeah.
And I was from Serbia. So going from Serbia into Kosovo,
You're a target.
They would have immediately said, we've got a target. Either way, I was meant to be kidnapped.
And it's so sad that all these safe spaces, and it's like, so what I was hearing was going on in Ukraine, and no doubt, I mean, in the last week we've had this war with Israel and Palestine.
Yeah.
But it's like, almost when you open the story and we talk about those moments in the mountains, you think, oh, fuck, how much worse can it get? You know, being marched to my death. And then you see the depths of like humanity and like how people can continue to abuse. And this war kind of gives these barbaric people a platform to prey on the vulnerable. And I know you do a lot of work with the charities and stuff, but do you feel like this has now become into your life's mission?
Literally all the time. I mean, I can't switch off. And it's funny you should mention Ukraine, because I think that was one of the first kind of missions that I had planned, to try and save as many Ukrainian children or vulnerable children within that circle of war that were coming off by the borders, young women and stuff. And I got a friend of mine has a charity, and we save children now, and they have helped Afghanistani girls, the teams, the sports team, female sports team from Afghanistan reach safety in Europe. So at the same time as we were doing that, we were also helping Ukraine. And we were trying to raise funds for both. We couldn't say much about the Afghanistan because they were being hunted by the Taliban. And what they did is they beheaded the girls that played sport, professional sports.
That's what I mean. It sounds like something you see in films, and it's
I know.
like...
It's horrific. They now, I'd say, we brought them to safety. Some are in the UK and others in other parts of Europe. But we had a private plane I can't go too deep into that, but we had so many people donate different things to go and pick these girls up and bring them over. The paperwork, I mean, very sensitive.
Almost gives your pain purpose.
I loved helping these girls because I'm so much into sport and martial arts, and being able to help these girls escape, from being beheaded and so on by the Taliban, being brought to safety. It was such a sense of relief that we got them to safety. But then we had, for example, undercover soldiers that were retired soldiers decided to go on the border with Ukraine, Poland, and guard the area. And often they would find vans waiting for young girls and kids that are vulnerable and just drag them into the van. So they would interfere and separate. And then we had a case where a big cargo, real cargo, ended up in Sweden. It was meant to be a normal cargo, and it's gone to the wrong direction, full of children. And so Sweden...
Where do you think they were meant to go?
I don't know, maybe America, maybe somewhere else in the world, but it wasn't.
But this is what I mean. But a lot of the time when we're looking at the food chain and the life cycle of human trafficking, it's starting in these really impoverished areas, but the end of the food chain happens to be a lot of these Western places. So it's like, and this was one of the things, again, I was talking about in one of the other podcasts, like we feel like, it's over there, it doesn't matter. But the demand starts here and the supply starts over there.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, I just find it so difficult to comprehend, like, and in general and in life, on like even everything that you've been through. And I think everything that you're doing is just like incredible. And I can't believe that it's still happening now.
It really is still happening. And I did this, the Ukraine and that, so obviously you can never save everyone because one person can't save everyone. A few people can't save everyone. Instead of focusing on this war, this is what pains me. And I keep thinking, why are we wasting our resources, our wealth and everything, trying to fight in such... Look, if you want to have a fight, if you want to have a war, do it like in the olden days. Find a field, get the army, this army, that army, at this time, we're going to have war. Why can't we just do that if that's what you want? Why do you have to torment? Why do you have to throw bombs, missiles and stuff? And in this case, for example, we are talking about Israel and Palestine. I have friends from both parts. I respect both parts. Yeah. Anybody that's taking sides right now, they need to really stop and question themselves.
Well, it's just about as a humanity in the race, and it worries me, and it's something that we're going to talk about on Sunday. It's like, so as we start advancing and more with technology, it's only going to be so long till someone's got robots and killing fields, and then when does it stop? Well, you got one arsehole with a push of a button, and you're like completely wiping it out. And like, I know you spoke earlier about ethnic cleansing, and this is what Hamas believe they're doing now, and it's like,
it's crazy. I don't support the terrorists from the Palestine side. I don't support any of this craziness going on. I feel sorry for the Jewish people. I genuinely do, because everybody wants peace. I know, I've been there.
And they've been persecuted timelessly.
Yeah, I've been there as a civilian myself. I know what it feels. The Kosovan had enough by that time. The Serbians had enough by that time. But the armies were going at it amongst us. We were like in the frying pan, but I'm not, like, I love my people, and I love the Serbians, and I love the Kosovans. I love everyone that comes from the part of Yugoslavia. We were all one country. But it really, trust me, doesn't feel right for the civilians at all. They just want this to end.
It's like we go on and we go say, we're all from the same country, but it's like, dude, we're all fucking human.
Yeah.
We're all mothers. We're all like, we're siblings, we're parents. We're like, you know, we've all, it's just, we just live in different parts of the world and we're all humans.
Yeah.
So can you just tell us quickly how you managed to get out when you were taken by the army then?
I got rescued by my father. Eventually, he managed to find where I was with the help of the Serbian police officers. So this is what I mean. It's not the civilians. It's not the police. It's more than that. It's the army. It's the people that are on the
Power.
on the seats. The governments always start these things, and nobody has ever come rich from war other than the people in power. In fact, war brings poverty tremendously to everyone, including everyone.
Apart unless you're an arms dealer.
Yeah. So, exactly. So, my dad, with the help of the Serbian police, not the army, the police, he, because we were always friends with everyone, we just lived in the same kind of level, respected each other. He managed to find out where I was being held. And they said to my dad, look, she's not being held by the normal army. So she's not in the normal bunkers. She's not where she should be. If the normal army took her, she should be
accounted for.
Yeah. She will be on the system because they can't just
take people.
No, they wouldn't. It's just when something is legitimately done, even during the war, they take notes.
So these were the prisoners that were dressed up to become army that you spoke about earlier, who were wearing trainers.
Absolutely. So it was them. And he said to my dad, look, we have zero power as police, and our army will not try and reason with them because now they've been given just enough power, same power as the normal army. So they're just going to do what they're going to do. They are prisoners of war. They are killers. They are rapists. They are all sorts. What can we do? And my dad said, well, what can I do? He said, well, you can maybe negotiate, see if you can get her out, and give them some money, tell them you're bringing her back. Try. And he was led all the way to the place, and then the police officers, they went back. And my dad came, I guess, I don't know how everything happened because I never really spoke to my dad exactly the step by step, just an overview. He doesn't like talking about this.
I can imagine.
Yeah, and when I got dragged from my room, and I reached where my dad was in one of the other rooms, I heard his voice, but it felt so surreal because I was losing it a bit. I wasn't myself anymore. I was really skin and bones. I'd lost a lot of weight. I had changed. I was just ticking, but I really didn't look like a human. I didn't look like a normal human. I was just a skeleton and skin. And yeah, he picked me up. He bribed them, and they said to my dad, "Bring her back, okay, old man. Otherwise, you know what happens." And I was like, "What the heck is going on?" And that was it. That was the end of the being captured for 6 months.
Did they go back to get you from your dad?
So, oh gosh, that's another story, but it's not in the book that. But I got to my parents, then I got sent to the UK. I mean, I just got put in a truck that was doing export import. Even during the war, it was bringing goods from other countries because we were at war.
Was anyone else in this truck with you?
No, just me and the driver, Spanish driver. We didn't speak. I just remember being Spanish, and and then he brought me to the UK. I don't even know how he did, but I was in the truck the whole time with him, not at the back, with him actually on the cabin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But that was a really sad goodbye. When I said goodbye to my dad, there was a really sad moment there. I didn't
knew
think,
that you probably won't see them again.
Yeah, I thought this is it. And saying goodbye to them was really hard. But yeah, my parents, because they organized my escape, they got really badly abused and beaten.
By the police?
By the army. By the illegal army that was formed. And the rest is just, I think it's a very private story. I wouldn't even go into that because it's not my story to tell. It's my parents, So
with everything that is going on now, if you could speak to someone that was going through what you were going through, what would you say to them?
oh gosh, it's really hard depending on what they're going through. But I think it's just believing in yourself that you are stronger than you give yourself credit. And we are so resilient. You know, I have so many people that write to me and say, oh my God, thank God you're speaking up, because you made me realize, you know, I have a resilience, because this is what I've been through and I'm still fighting it. But now you've given me that clean
hope.
Yeah, the hope and clean cut kind of saying, I've heard you speak in such and such. And I thought, hang on a minute, I've been dwelling too much on this. This is what it taught me. This is what I need to do next. So I think it's waking up people to think.
Yeah, and I think especially like you even having these conversations, they're so uncomfortable for a lot of people that might not even want to listen to it because it's what's happening, but it's awakening that part that people need to become aware. Like we were talking about earlier, it's not just the guy that gets the bullet in the chest, and it's like the women that are being raped and the families that are being torn apart and the people that are unaccounted for at war. It's not a case of, like you were talking about, like back in the day where the men would go in the field and fight it out. Like,
yeah,
it's tearing the world apart now. Like, it is tearing everyone apart. I mean, do the boys know much, your sons?
My kids, they know the whole story. And anyone that's listening right now, if they think it's easy for me to talk about this, it's not. I have just made a promise to myself now. Since the book got published, I've cried, I've broken down in so many occasions on TV, other podcasts I've done. The reason I am holding myself together today is because I really need, for the sake of everyone, you know, not the listeners, but the people that are still, to be strong. And because when I'm crumbling, I can't think straight. And when I let the emotions take over, because it is, honestly, every moment we've been speaking, I've been just boiling because I just want to cry, because if I go too deep into that, I break down.
And it's probably hard to come back out.
It's really tough.
It's just, I can't imagine. I know.
So my kids know the story. I've told them the truth and they're not scared. They lead a normal life, in a sense that they don't go around, you know, like paranoid or anything. So kids are so resilient. I didn't tell them to scare them.
Because you're so resilient as well.
No, but they are really resilient, honestly. If you sit down a kid and you don't treat them like kids, you actually treat them like a human being, an adult, like intelligent human being, and just say, listen, let me tell you something. And you tell them from your heart what's bothering you or what you've been through. They look at you and they give you some amazing advice. It's incredible. My sons have healed me. Having them has really truly healed me. First time I became pregnant, because I didn't know I was going to be able to have kids. What happened to me? And then when I was told that I'm pregnant, I just didn't believe it's even possible, because I thought I was so badly ruined inside.
Them little miracles, the two boys.
Like my first son especially completely healed me as he was growing inside of me. That pure, genuine soul, it was healing my body, you know, because they say that they heal mothers' wounds and stuff. It's such a miracle.
Well, it's like we forget that we think it's just the body, but you're growing a whole soul that's coming from where we don't know into you. It's not just like we're procreating a fetus, and it's like,
oh, it's magic.
No, it is. It really is, and we take it for granted because you think, oh, I'm just growing this skeleton, but not you. There's a soul that is coming through you into someone else.
That's the only time in your lifetime you're gonna have two heartbeats.
Just,
in the same body.
It makes me go cold, you even saying
right
it.
2 heartbeats, or if you're having more babies inside, because we only have 1 heartbeat. But that's the only time there is more than 1 heartbeat, and that in itself is magical. I am so grateful to God, to universe, whatever people believe, because I always say non-believers, whatever, I am grateful to whatever they believe in. whatever brought these children to me, because they completely healed me. They gave me purpose. They gave me focus. They taught me more forgiveness. It's been the greatest gift. I don't care about diamonds. I don't care about anything. Child is the greatest gift, and it's precious. And I think just being able to have them, that in itself is the biggest gift in the world.
You just touched on it there, God. So like most people in your situation be like, there isn't a fucking God. Fuck God.
I questioned him as well.
Yeah.
I questioned whether it was there or not. But when people read the book, they will realize that unless there was a bigger power, none of that I wouldn't be here. It's impossible.
And talking about that bigger power, like you've gone to live such a purposeful... I mean, you'd think, I don't know how one would recover from that. And you live your life with, you have joy. Like, you have 2 beautiful boys. You're changing the world and helping people who've been in the situations you have. If you could go back to that moment where you left and you picked up that magazine, would you still do that?
I will still do that. Honestly, everything I've been through, I will never wish it away, because I don't know who I would be if I never went through this. I would be scared that I might not be as kind or maybe as humble, and maybe I wouldn't have my boys, and I won't be able to help. I won't be able to help anybody now. I won't be able to inspire anyone. And what's the point of just being a doctor like I wanted to be? And yeah, maybe I'll save a few lives and help. But
we're going to need another box.
Look, if anyone is listening to this and they're going through a tough time, or that you have been through a tough time, or someone you know is going through a tough time, learn from it and never let it bring you down. Find the purpose. Why is it happening to me? Don't feel sorry, but ask, why is this happening to me? Why now? What is it teaching me? Once you come to the other side, what did I learn from this, and how I can help, how I can implement? And if it's changed you for the worse, you have to try and adjust yourself, because it shouldn't change you for the worse. You should channel the good. Because for me, all the cruelty, every cruelty that it was implemented on my body, psychologically, mentally, it's everything that I'm sensitive to. If I see anyone being bullied, I don't care who they are, I will interfere. I put myself in danger, I interfere. If I see anyone being cruel to an elderly or not letting them sit or something, I always say politely, I'm never rude, but I'll say, perhaps, come on. I always make people feel like there is that decision. But I always suggest it. But, it's just about making a change and being kind.
There's just a remarkable energy and spark of human resilience that you just possess. It's just honestly. And I think, listen, the podcast is called Getting There. And
yes.
At one point, I'm sure it was just getting there, was just getting back home or getting to the UK. But it changes throughout our life, doesn't it? Like one day I just want to get... What's the destination or that you're trying to get to now, or what are you chasing?
Right now, all I want to do is try and help people that are focused on stopping human trafficking. When I say people, meaning organizations, agents, making people aware of human trafficking. So I don't preach, and I always say, look, I'm going to tell my story as it's happened. I'm not here to convince you. You don't need to ask me questions about prove it, do this, do that. Like, people have a tendency to say, oh, she's got to prove it. And I don't need to prove anything. The government back home have all the evidence they need. Governments here, they had all the evidence they needed for me to be here. Let me do my job. Let me just do what I'm meant to do. I am here just to make good. But the biggest thing that I think now I can say with full confidence is the biggest legacy to leave behind is bringing up my boys to the kindest possible human beings, because this world needs balance. There's a lot of evil. And evil, so people listening, for example, to this podcast, they don't have to have gone through, it's no need for them to have gone through war to think, oh, well, how does this relate to me? I'm talking about injustice. I'm talking about bullying at school. I'm talking bullying at home, war in your own home. It could mean that, your partner is abusive or someone at home is abusive. So war, the torment comes in different shapes and forms. It doesn't have to be war. Yes, we're touching on war because I went through war.
It's levels of trauma, isn't
But
it?
level of trauma. I realize that people relate to me that have gone through traumas from their parents, for example, which I'm very saddened. That's even more cruel because at least I had parents that meant only good. They never tormented me. This whole thing came from external humans, external beings, anyone but someone blood to me. But when it comes from your own parents, for example, that's absolutely heartbreaking that, a parent could do that to someone, to their own child, or unintentionally maybe even hurt them. So we need to really be aware. I'm so aware now. I'm like always questioning myself of how I am with the boys, how I am with the kids, because you never know. We're only humans. We make mistakes. I'm not saying we are perfect. There's no way I'm not perfect. I'm still working on it. But my mission is just to do good and raise awareness, raise funds, help charities, speak out. And I choose now to speak out because finally I feel grounded enough and healed enough to be able to speak about it without fearing or without breaking down, without feeling ashamed. Because shame was what held me back. All these years, nobody knew my story because I was so ashamed of the amount of rape that I had received. That's a sexual abuse. For me, you couldn't talk about mental health and stuff many years ago. It's only now it's become more
a safe space to talk about. Yeah.
So this is why I decided to do it. And then I see injustice happening under my very nose, for example, my friends going through stuff. And I'm like, I need to do something about this. I need to speak out because people need to know that they're not alone in whatever they are going through.
And all of these experiences, like even you coming on here today, it's re-traumatizing to a degree, right? And like even now, by even you talking, you still have to suffer a little bit in order to get your story out. And I know we spoke a little bit off air about maybe this being your last one, but I can understand that. Yeah,
honestly, I need to.
And I'm so grateful for you coming on here and sharing your story because I think, like you say, you've turned so much pain into purpose. You almost feel like this unstoppable force of nature to be reckoned with.
It's really hard to be strong all the time, and yes, I remain unbroken. I was completely broken. Then I sort of pieced my pieces together with a lot of help from different kind of sources. And I'm broken because I realize no matter how everything else gets broken, your spirit, your soul is really unbroken. There's something that nobody can take.
Yeah.
They can kill you. Yeah, they can kill you. They can end it's like killing you. It's like, switching the engine off, but the spirit lives on. And the spirit is what doesn't break. And that spirit is only taken by...
And that's what's been unbroken in you.
Yeah,
and I think it's remarkable because anyone that meet you will probably say the same. You can feel the spirit. But... Yeah,
my spirit, it's been really strong. It's a very old soul. And sometimes we talk about this with different people. They say, Lurata, what, because, there is, look, I believe in God, but there is people that say, do you think we reincarnate? And I said, well, I can't say for certain because I don't know, but it feels for me. And even on my birth chart, I did this birth chart. I was very curious. A friend of mine did it for me. She's very well known in the States. And she came back. She said, this is it for you. She said, I see lots of talking, stage, big movement. It's all on my birth chart. Can you imagine?
Before you were doing everything that you were doing
Yeah. Like literally, it's mind-blowing. I have my birth chart.
Let's have
next, I'm gonna
I'm
gonna try and get it from my email.
I love woo-woo stuff. Woo-woo.
Honestly, and on my birth charts, it says, apparently, if there was to be reincarnation, according to this lady astrologist, she said, you've had really successful careers in the past, you've had loads of money, you've had all the kids in the world, all the relationships in the world, you all complete. The one thing that you were sent to do is this
Oh my God.
to speak out.
So is this your last life, do you reckon?
Yeah. So she said, this is it for you. It's
So
the
you might
last
as well
house.
enjoy it.
Yeah, and I always felt that, because it's really funny, I keep saying I'm going to die young. I have this sixth sense kind of feeling that I feel like I will go really young in terms of age.
But maybe you did.
I don't know.
But I mean, maybe you did in what happened to you. Your vulnerability, your naivety, your childhood was robbed, and that's what you were feeling.
Maybe, because I always
Because I can't see you going anywhere anytime soon.
Well, let's speak to God.
You just don't want to walk out and get hit by a bus after all that. Jesus.
Oh,
but
listen, someone like me needs an epic send-off. So I don't know.
I'd be devastated if you just. But listen, thank you for coming on, and thank you for everything.
Thanks for having me.